The vast emptiness of space had never felt so cold, so silent. For weeks, Earth's deep space listening posts had eagerly awaited a signal from the Draconian fleet, the powerful alien armada that had stood as both protector and enigma on the edge of human space. The Draconians were fierce, disciplined and mysterious, alien beings whose advanced technology had saved Earth more than once from threats no one fully understood. Their ships, sleek and dark, were symbols of strength and alliance. But now there was nothing, no chatter, no signals, not even a faint whisper in the cosmic static. When the scheduled check-in time passed, without the usual rhythmic pulse of the Draconian communications, unease spread rapidly through the command centers on Earth. Officers and scientists huddled around glowing screens, eyes darting to read every flicker of data, hoping it was a glitch, a delay, or some error in the vast communication networks stretching between the stars. The Intrepid, Earth's most advanced exploration vessel, was swiftly prepared for immediate departure, its crew handpicked for their courage and skill. Captain Liana Vega stood on the bridge, her sharp gaze fixed on the black horizon through the thick viewports, her mind racing with questions that had no answers. Why would an entire fleet vanish without even a distress signal? She muttered, her voice tight with worry. The Draconian ships had never gone dark before. They were proud warriors who valued their communications as much as their weapons. As the Intrepid jumped to faster-than-light speed, piercing the distance to the Draconian sector, the crew worked in tense silence, aware that they were entering unknown danger. Hours turned into days, and every scan revealed nothing but empty. Void, no ships in battle formation, no debris fields, no signs of destruction. It was as if the fleet had simply disappeared. The tension grew heavier with every passing moment. Every sensor ping that failed to find a trace added to the growing dread that something unimaginable had happened. The Intrepid finally reached the last known coordinates of the Draconian flagship, a massive vessel called the Seraphis, famed for its legendary role in past battles. What greeted them was a ghost ship, drifting motionless against the backdrop of distant stars, its hull scarred but intact. Boarding teams were sent in, their steps echoing through empty corridors, lights casting long shadows over abandoned control panels. No bodies, no signs of struggle, only the haunting silence of a place once teeming with life. In the command room, a flickering console displayed the last transmitted logs, fragmented messages filled with static and broken words, warnings about an unknown force, shadows beyond sensors, and something not meant to be. The crew's unease deepened as they pieced together the fragments, realizing that whatever had taken the Draconian fleet had come from nowhere and left no trace. Captain Vega ordered a thorough search of every ship, hoping to find survivors or clues, but the emptiness remained unbroken. On the bridge of the Intrepid, the crew stared at the dark screen that should have been alive with signals, their faces pale with fear and determination. The silence was suffocating, a loud absence that screamed of danger. They had come looking for answers and found only questions, and the chilling feeling that whatever happened to the Draconians might soon reach Earth itself. The Intrepid floated like a silent shadow among the scattered remnants of the once mighty Draconian fleet, a ghostly graveyard in the vast emptiness of space. Every ship was a frozen echo of life, abruptly halted, drifting aimlessly without crew or purpose. Captain Liana Vega and her crew moved carefully through the eerie silence, their footsteps muffled by the artificial gravity as they explored each vessel. The ships showed no signs of battle damage, no scorch marks, no hull breaches, no wreckage to explain the sudden disappearance of thousands of Draconians. Instead, the corridors were unnervingly clean, as if the occupants had left in a hurry, leaving behind everything as it was. Strange shadows flickered at the edge of their vision, and the hum of the Intrepid system seemed too loud in the Emptiness. The crew found logs and data crystals scattered in some rooms, but most were damaged or encrypted. When the engineers managed to decrypt fragments of the Draconian messages, what they revealed was unsettling. The logs mentioned strange readings from unknown energy sources, systems behaving erratically, and a creeping silence that fell over the fleet like a dark cloud. The words, "something unnatural," "beyond sensor range," and "fear beyond understanding," recurred, each fragment more cryptic and chilling than the last. The intrepid science officer, Lieutenant Ramir, noted that the ship's sensors had recorded bursts of energy waves that defied physics, waves that seemed to disrupt the flow of time itself in localized areas. The crew realized that the Draconians had faced an enemy unlike any other, one that could hide in the folds of reality and erase entire crews without a trace. Strange electromagnetic pulses from deep within the fleet's formation suggested that something was still active, but no living being responded to their hails. As the Intrepid moved closer to the center of the fleet, the eerie quiet deepened, as if the ships themselves were holding their breath. Then came the first sign of movement, a flicker on one of the distant sensor arrays, a pulse of energy too weak to identify, but enough to raise the hairs on the back of every crew member's neck. Captain Vega ordered the Intrepid to hold position, and the crew intensified their scans, trying to decode the mysterious signal. It was unlike anything they had ever encountered, an irregular pattern that seemed almost like a heartbeat, pulsing slowly through the dark. Suddenly, a warning flashed across the main screen. The ship's systems were being affected by an unknown interference. Lights flickered, and for a brief moment, the bridge plunged into darkness before emergency power kicked in. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through the hull, and every member of the crew felt an unsettling pressure, as if invisible eyes were watching from the shadows. The science team theorized that the interference was not mechanical, but something more, an intelligence, or force interacting with their technology, probing the Intrepid like a curious predator. Captain Vega knew they had crossed into territory where no one could guarantee safety. Then, as if answering the crew's silent dread, a distorted transmission crackled through the static, garbled, broken, but unmistakably Draconian. It spoke of a darkness beneath the stars, a warning that the void itself has eyes, and a final desperate plea to run while you still can. The message ended abruptly, replaced by chilling silence. The Intrepid's crew now understood that the Draconian fleet had not simply vanished. They had been hunted by something alien and terrifying, something that consumed life and light alike. Yet the question remained, what was this enemy, and was it still out there watching and waiting? Captain Vega ordered a full sweep of the fleet's ships to gather every scrap of information, knowing that each discovery could be their last. As the boarding teams moved from ship to ship, they found signs of life in the most unexpected places. Cryptic symbols carved into bulkheads, strange devices emitting faint pulses of energy, and areas where the laws of physics seemed to warp, causing time to stretch and contract in disturbing ways. One engineer who stepped into a particular chamber reported a sudden feeling of nausea and disorientation, as if the room itself was alive and hostile. The tension on the Intrepid grew with every passing hour, the crew haunted not just by what they might find, but by what might find them. With no survivors, no clear cause, and a creeping dread settling in like a thick fog, the mystery of the Draconian fleet's fate deepened. Every shadow on the ship seemed to hide a secret, every silence a threat. Earth's most advanced ship was now a lone beacon in a sea of unknown horrors, racing against time to uncover the truth before it was swallowed by the very darkness that had claimed the Draconians. The Intrepid drifted deeper into the uncharted zone, where the Draconian fleet had last been seen, the empty ships like cold monuments in the endless black of space. Days passed with little change until a faint, weak signal appeared on their sensors, barely detectable but unmistakably artificial. Captain Liana Vega and her crew leaned over their consoles, eyes wide with a mix of hope and dread. The signal came from a small, obscure planet hidden in the shadows of a nearby asteroid belt, a world not marked on any human or Draconian star charts. The Intrepid changed course immediately, engines humming softly as the ship moved toward the mysterious planet. The closer they got, the more they noticed strange fluctuations in the planet's atmosphere. Scanners showed a dense toxic gas surrounding the surface, making it impossible to breathe or survive without protection. The planet's surface appeared harsh and barren, with jagged rocks and deep canyons cutting across a dull, grey landscape. Yet beneath that lifeless exterior, something stirred, a beacon emitting a coded message that begged for attention. The crew prepared an expedition team, donning suits designed to handle extreme environments and hostile atmospheres. Captain Vega led the landing party herself, knowing that this mission could hold the key to understanding the fate of the Draconian fleet. Or it could be a deadly trap. When the Intrepid touched down on the rocky surface, the air was thick and heavy, and every step felt like a fight against the hostile environment. The team moved cautiously toward the source of the signal, their boots crunching over brittle stones and dust that glowed faintly under the dim light of the planet's distant sun. As they neared the coordinates, they discovered a massive structure, partially buried in the ground, its architecture unlike anything human had ever seen, but strangely familiar in its precise lines and glowing blue markings. It was the remains of a Draconian research facility, once a hub of science and discovery, now a silent tomb. Inside, the air was cold and still, filled with the faint hum of forgotten machines. The walls bore symbols and writings that hinted at experiments with new energy forms, energies capable of bending space and time, altering reality itself. Data terminals flickered weakly, and the team worked quickly to retrieve as much information as possible. Logs revealed that the Draconians had been attempting to harness this energy to create a powerful weapon, something that could protect their fleet but also held unimaginable risks. Suddenly, the recordings became frantic, filled with warnings of instability and unseen forces growing beyond control. The last messages spoke of a containment breach and a desperate plan to shut everything down, but the final log ended abruptly, leaving the team with a deep sense of unease. As they delved deeper, the facility's security systems unexpectedly activated, sealing doors and triggering defensive measures. Lights flickered and alarms sounded, forcing the crew to move fast through twisting corridors and vast chambers. Shadows seemed to shift and lengthen, and strange whispers echoed through the halls, making even the bravest feel the prickling of fear. The energy experiments had awakened something ancient and powerful, something not bound by normal rules of physics or logic. The team reached the core chamber, where a large device pulsed with a dim, eerie light. It radiated a force that warped the air around it, and sensors detected strange fluctuations in time and space nearby. As they examined the device, the planet itself seemed to respond. A low rumble shook the ground, dust falling from the ceiling, and distant groans like the planet was awakening from a deep slumber. Captain Vega ordered a retreat, but before they could leave, the device emitted a surge of energy that disrupted their suit's systems and communications. For a moment, the world twisted and blurred around them, and everyone felt a strange sense of weightlessness mixed with crushing pressure. When the effect passed, the team realized that something had changed. Something was watching, waiting. They raced back to the Intrepid, carrying the data cores and fragments of the logs, but the silence that greeted them on the ship was heavier than before. The planet's beacon continued to send its cryptic messages, warning of dangers hidden. in the darkness of forces that could unravel not just the Draconian fleet, but the very fabric of reality. Captain Vega knew their mission had only just begun. This signal from below was a cry for help, and a warning that the galaxy faced a threat unlike any other, a darkness born from ambition and fear, waiting to spread beyond the cold surface of the lonely planet. The silence that followed the intrepid crew's narrow escape from the ancient Draconian research facility was uneasy, thick with the weight of unknown dangers lurking just beneath the planet's surface. The data they carried held secrets too vast and terrifying to fully comprehend, and yet the mysterious signals from the planet continued, growing stronger, more insistent. As the ship orbited the bleak world, the crew's sensors detected a sudden surge of energy rising from the depths, a slow, pulsing rhythm that seemed almost alive. Captain Liana Vega watched the readings with a growing sense of dread. Then, without warning, the ship's alarms blared, warning of an external force interacting with their systems in ways no one could explain. The communications array flickered, images on the main screen distorted, and strange whispers echoed faintly through the ship's speakers. The science team scrambled to isolate the source, tracing the interference back to the planet below. What they discovered defied all logic. A massive biomechanical structure buried beneath the surface was awakening after centuries of dormancy. It was an ancient intelligence, part machine, part living organism, shaped by the Draconians' own experiments but now free, evolving beyond their control. The entity radiated power that bent space and time around it, disrupting the Intrepids' systems and warping reality within the ship's vicinity. As the crew watched in horror, holographic images flickered on the bridge, showing twisted visions of the past. The Draconian scientists' frantic efforts to control the entity, their failures and the chaos that followed. The intelligence had consumed the Draconian fleet, erasing all life aboard the ships and hiding in the folds of space, waiting to grow stronger. Panic rippled through the crew as the entity's influence began to extend beyond the planet, sending tendrils of energy that reached toward the Intrepid like invisible claws. Captain Vega ordered all hands to battle stations, but their weapons had little effect on the intangible foe. The entity's presence was overwhelming, a cold, merciless force that seemed to feed on fear and technology alike. Attempts to communicate failed. But then, in a sudden moment of clarity, the ship's AI intercepted a message, not in words, but in feelings and images, an ancient warning from the Draconians themselves embedded in the data cores. The message spoke of a choice: destroy the entity before it escaped, or risk losing everything. With no time to lose, the crew devised a daring plan to infiltrate the planet's core, where the entity's consciousness was strongest, using specially designed suits and devices to shield them from the distortions in reality. Captain Vega led a small team back to the surface. As they descended into the planet's underground labyrinth, the air grew thick with energy, shadows dancing on the walls, and the very fabric of space twisting around them. They encountered traps and illusions designed to confuse and trap intruders, but their determination pushed them forward. The entity tried to communicate, projecting terrifying images of a universe consumed by darkness and silence, tempting them with visions of power and destruction. But the team held firm, driven by the hope of saving not only themselves, but all life in the galaxy. At the heart of the labyrinth, they found the entity, a massive, pulsating core of living metal and energy, surrounded by relics of Draconian technology. Captain Vega initiated the virus crafted by the science team, a weapon designed not to destroy, but to destabilize and contain the entity's power. The process was slow and dangerous, and the entity fought back with bursts of energy that threatened to tear the planet apart. The team barely escaped as the core began to collapse inward, the entity retreating into a weakened state, its hold on reality slipping. Back aboard the Intrepid, the crew watched as the planet's energy faded, the beacon dimming into silence once more. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Captain Vega understood that this awakening was only the beginning. The galaxy had glimpsed a darkness that could rise again if humanity and its allies did not prepare. The Draconian fleet's fate had become a warning, a call to vigilance and unity in the face of the unknown. And as the Intrepid set course for home, the crew carried with them the heavy knowledge that survival depended not just on strength, but on courage and hope against the shadows waiting in the void. The Intrepid's return to Earth was met with a tense mixture of relief and unease. The data they carried a grim testament to the terrible power that had consumed the Draconian fleet and nearly swallowed their own crew. The images and recordings from the planet's core, the biomechanical entity, and the fractured messages sent chills through the highest councils of Earth's government and military. For the first time, humanity faced a threat that was not just alien, but something beyond known science, a darkness that bent reality and consumed life without mercy. As the Intrepid docked, scientists, engineers, and military leaders flooded aboard, eager to analyze the Draconian technology and the data cores the crew had risked everything to save. Across Earth's sprawling space stations and research hubs, teams worked tirelessly, piecing together what little they could understand about the entity and the weapon the Intrepid's crew had deployed. The discovery ignited a wave of innovation and urgency never seen before. Old rivalries and political disputes were set aside as humanity united in purpose. The Draconian tech, once a mysterious symbol of alien power, was now a tool for survival, reverse-engineered and adapted to create new defenses, shields, and weapons designed to counter the strange energy that had nearly destroyed an entire fleet. Yet fear ran deep. The entity's retreat was temporary, its power only diminished, not destroyed. Scientists warned that if left unchecked, it could regain strength, spread beyond the planet, and threaten all human colonies and allies across the stars. In response, Earth formed the Coalition of United Worlds, a new alliance combining human ingenuity with the remnants of the Draconian knowledge. Captain Liana Vega, hailed as a hero but burdened by the losses she had witnessed, was appointed head of the Coalition's defense fleet, tasked with preparing for the coming battle against an enemy no one fully understood. Training intensified, and experimental technologies were rushed into production, including ships equipped with advanced energy dampeners and reality stabilizers designed to weaken the entity's influence. The Intrepid was refitted as the flagship of this new fleet, symbolizing humanity's resolve to face the darkness head-on. Meanwhile, scientists worked on a sophisticated virus, inspired by the one deployed at the planet's core, designed to infiltrate the entity's consciousness and disrupt its connection to the physical world. The project pushed the limits of artificial intelligence and quantum computing, requiring experts from every corner of human space to contribute their skills. The Coalition also sent out scouts and probes to the fringes of known space, searching for any sign of the entity's influence or other hidden threats. As the months passed, tensions ran high, the weight of impending conflict pressing on every soul. Public broadcasts shared the story of the Draconian fleet's fate cautiously, carefully balancing truth with hope to prevent panic. But in the quiet moments, many wondered if humanity was truly prepared for the darkness lurking beyond the stars. Captain Vega, standing once again on the bridge of the Intrepid, felt the heavy burden of leadership. She knew the battles ahead would test not just weapons and technology, but the very spirit of humanity. She gathered her crew, reminding them that it was courage, unity, and hope that had brought them this far, and would be their greatest weapons against the coming storm. As the coalition fleet grew stronger and more prepared, reports came in of strange phenomena in distant sectors, systems going dark, colonies losing contact, shadows flickering at the edge of sensor ranges. The entity was not idle. It was evolving, spreading, testing its reach. The stage was set for a war that would decide the fate of countless worlds. But humanity stood ready, armed with knowledge, determination, and the unbreakable will to survive. The Draconian fleet's haunting silence had become a rallying cry, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, hope and resolve could shine brighter than any star. The Intrepid led the charge into the unknown, a beacon of human strength and spirit in a galaxy filled with shadows. The coalition fleet moved cautiously through the dark stretches of space where the entity's influence had been reported. Tension thick aboard every ship as crews stared into the void that seemed to pulse with hidden menace. Captain Liana Vega stood on the bridge of the Intrepid, her eyes scanning the endless black, heart steady but mind alert. The weeks of preparation, the countless hours spent understanding the alien technology and mastering the virus designed to weaken the entity, all led to this moment. They knew the enemy would not reveal itself easily. It was a force beyond flesh, a shifting shadow that could twist reality and strike without warning. The first encounter came suddenly. Sensors picked up distortions in the fabric of space. A ripple spreading like a dark wave, swallowing light and sound. The fleet's ships shuddered as the entity's power pressed against their shields, testing, probing for weaknesses. Communications buzzed with static and strange voices, whispers that seemed to echo inside the minds of the crew, sowing doubt and fear. Captain Vega ordered the fleet into formation, their newly designed defenses humming with energy, ready to push back the invisible assault. The virus, carefully encoded into specialized drones, was launched toward the center of the disturbance, a living pulse of shifting metal and light that loomed like a storm of shadows. As the drones entered the heart of the entity, the battle turned from physical to mental. The entity fought with tendrils of thought and fear, projecting terrifying visions of endless darkness, of worlds consumed and civilizations erased. Crew members struggled to keep their focus, battling their own rising doubts and nightmares. But Captain Vega's voice cut through the chaos, steady and strong, reminding them of their purpose, the light of humanity that refused to be extinguished. The virus began to take effect, unraveling the entity's grip on reality, forcing it to recoil and falter. But the victory came at a cost. The entity lashed out in desperation, sending waves of energy that damaged several ships and caused critical failures. The Intrepid herself was struck, systems flickering as the ship fought to maintain control. Engineers and medics worked around the clock, patching damage and steadying the crew's nerves. Despite the dangers, the fleet held together, united by a fierce will to survive. Slowly, the entity's power weakened, its form fracturing like shattered glass scattered through the stars. The coalition fleet pressed their advantage, pushing deeper into the darkness, reclaiming territory lost to fear and silence. Signals returned from long-lost colonies, communication lines restored as hope blossomed anew. But even as victory seemed within reach, Captain Vega knew the entity was not truly destroyed. It had been contained, driven back into hiding. But its threat remained, a shadow waiting to return when the galaxy was least prepared. As the fleet gathered for a moment of quiet, the crew looked to the stars with a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced the void and survived, proving that, even in the darkest times, the light of courage, unity and hope could pierce the deepest shadows. The Intrepid and her crew set course for home once more, carrying the story of humanity's resolve, a beacon shining brightly in the vast darkness of space, reminding all who heard it that no matter how deep the night, the dawn would always come.